Hello and welcome to the SFCA podcast. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. Another edition of Concierge Confidential. Today, we are at Vizcaya Museum with the Marketing Communications Director, Charlotte Donn. Charlotte, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. I love to hear all about Vizcaya. It is the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful buildings, if not the most beautiful building in Miami-Dade County. And I want to know all about the history and everything. So tell us, when James Deering had the vision of bringing Vizcaya as in its state to Miami, where did it all stem from?
He's actually from Chicago. He was a vice president of International Harvester. He retired, and he actually was diagnosed with pernicious anemia. So his doctor recommended that he come south for the winters, which he did. His brother was here, Charles Deering, as well as his father was here. So it was kind of a natural place for him to come. And so he started around 1912 buying property and getting his estate set up, getting all the documents and all the drawings and working with a designer on it. And the construction started in 1914 and it was finished in 1916. So he moved down in December of 1916.
Okay, so it was a 4-year process. Now, I understood that the materials from the house were imported from Europe?
Well, the house itself uses a lot of natural stone, limestone, coral rock. He had it built here, so he used like poured in place concrete, all the latest construction methods. What was brought in mostly from Europe and some from Asia were the decor for the house, that all the furnishings, some of the ceilings, the statues that are in the gardens, all of the ornateness of Vizcaya, that was what he imported from Europe.
Except for the air conditioning. The house never had air conditioning from day one, correct?
Yeah, the house originally did not have air conditioning. When I first came to visit Vizcaya, when I was in junior high, it was not air conditioned. So whenever somebody says they haven't been here in a while, I checked the date, I said, it's air conditioned now. So we had the atrium, the courtyard was open to the elements. So that has been covered with hurricane resistant panels with glass. And we're actually in the middle of a project right now to replace some windows so that it's hurricane resistant. And some of the doors, some of the historic doors are being worked on, and then some of them are being replicated. But the AC went in probably in the late 80s is when our air conditioning went in. So.
Okay, and when did they cover the courtyard, the center courtyard?
The center courtyard's been replaced twice. So it went in probably the very late 80s is when it went in. Okay. And the first one that went in, the panels were, more about keeping the sun out, so it was dark in there. So those were replaced with clear so that it's now bright in there and it makes you feel like it's an open air, even though it isn't.
Okay. Yeah, no, it gives you that nice indoor feeling, but the climate is just perfect, especially when it rains and you're exposed to the elements. You don't see it, you don't feel it. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, and indeed. It has an indoor garden in the courtyard, which is very lush. It's got palm trees. It's got all of those kinds of things that were part of the original plan of the estate, and it's still there.
Okay. Now, question: someone can always explore the home by themselves, but it's always nice to have a docent that can give them all the background details. How would one go about getting a docent for the house? Or they're just there and you utilize them as needed?
Well, while we're under the COVID-19, we aren't able to do the guided tours right now. We have the audio tour that you can still do. And actually next week, some of our docents are coming back. They won't necessarily be giving tours, but they will be around to answer questions. Once we're allowed to bring larger groups in, then we'll start with the docent tours. And what you do is when you come, you just ask, I want to be on the next tour, and then they'll get you on the next tour. And right now the ground floor is mostly open. The second floor, just because of the 6-foot distances, it's really difficult because it's tight up there with the bedrooms. So the first floor is what's open right now.
Okay. So first floor is available. Eventually, the second floor will be available.
Soon
And
as we can bring more than 10 people at a time.
understood, understood. Now, this guy has played a major role in South Florida, and when we've received dignitaries, whether it be the Queen of England or the Pope John Paul, and various U.S. sitting presidents, they've utilized Vizcaya as their destination of choice when in South Florida. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, because of the history of Vizcaya and the beauty of Vizcaya, and even down to the Mediterranean look that you find through Coral Gables and throughout the Miami-Dade County, all of that really started here. And a lot of the artisans that worked here at Vizcaya also worked later in other states, and also in just some of the public buildings that you'll find around. So that's part of the reason why it's often chosen. It's right on Biscayne Bay, which is another beautiful view. So much of the collection, like let's say a dignitary from another country comes here, that we have pieces from all over the world here for them to see. We also have a lot of celebrity visits as well. We've had, since I've been here, we had Kanye West, we had one of the Rolling Stones were here. We've had like, we had some famous directors who have come through here. Most of them, they like to be kept confidential because they're here for pleasure. A lot of them come for pleasure.
Okay.
A lot of security involved. So we have everybody and anybody can come here.
Okay. Now, something that always struck me as odd is when you go into the back of the house and you're overlooking Biscayne Bay, it almost looks like there's a concrete boat, so to speak. What exactly is that?
That's called the Barge. And that was designed to be a breakwater, which is to help reduce the impact of storms on what was, the water side is actually the front of the house. That was built to be the front of the house. So that's what, and it has served its purpose very, very well. It received a lot of damage in Hurricane Irma and other hurricanes before that. So we're in the process of doing some repairs on it. A lot of people say, why can't we go out on it? It's just not stable enough right now. The stone part is, but it used to have gazebos on it, used to have gardens on it. All of that is gone now.
Okay.
So we're really looking at making sure that it's well stabilized. We did a 3D documentation of it. So we have great renderings. Actually, we did it right before Hurricane Irma, which has been a blessing in disguise to have all of that documentation for the refurbishment and the replacement of pieces.
Okay, perfect. So you have the house and then you have the gardens. Tell us a little bit about the gardens and what you offer in the gardens themselves.
Okay, our gardens actually were finished in 1922. So although we've had our centennial already for the estate, our gardens will be 100 years in 2022. And we're really excited about that. While we've been closed for the COVID and stay-at-home orders, we actually did a lot of work on some of our fountains. So some of the fountains that hadn't been working that well are now beautiful and flowing again. The plumbing to the Vizcaya's gardens is 100 years old. So that's part of our challenge here. We did replant about a year ago. What we call the fountain garden was originally the rose garden, and roses have been replanted there. So that's one of our new additions that we have. It's got an orchidarium. James Deering loved orchids, and he always dreamed of having orchids in all the trees, which we now have an extensive collection of orchids out in our trees and in our nursery. So it's absolutely wonderful to just wander through. We're able to keep it a low density experience. So we just changed to where you only need to wear your mask when you come onto the estate and when you're 6 feet to another guest, which has been great. That people have really enjoyed being outside and being able to just, relax and sit on a bench and just be here.
Okay. So you mentioned James Deering was the owner of the house. Now there is a Charles Deering, they're brothers. Was there a competition of sorts that you know of when James, who was the one that first came to Miami?
They were very close. They were half brothers, but they were extremely close. And there's documentation of things that, oh, you want the chandelier? Here, have the chandelier. Just trading things. If I've been on, of course, a tour over there several times, and the workmen obviously worked in both the states because there's different pieces and elements that are exactly the same. They James actually died, and it was very devastating for Charles because they were that close.
Oh, wow.
And they used to travel together as well. And Charles passed away fairly quickly thereafter, within 2 years. So originally Vizcaya went to Charles. He inherited it because James had no children. And then when Charles passed away, Charles's two children, they're the ones who inherited both properties.
And are properties still part of the family, or they've been vested to the citizens of Dade County?
Well, originally they did want to open Vizcaya as a museum pretty much as soon as they had taken a responsibility for it. But the problem is right after James died, is we got hit with a 26 hurricane. So they had to deal with all that. And then they were opening it up as an art museum, and then they got hit with I think it was a 32 or 36 hurricane. After 2 devastating hurricanes, then they were like, we can't manage this ourselves. So that's when they started to, they sold some property to the Archdiocese, which is where Mercy Hospital is, and where the LaSalle High School is. Mm-hmm. And then they sold part to a developer, which is where Bay Heights, the development Bay Heights is. Okay. And then the rest they conveyed to Miami-Dade County. So Miami-Dade County is the one who ultimately opened it up as a museum. And the county ran Vizcaya Museum and Gardens until about 3 years ago, when we became operated as a nonprofit organization. So Miami-Dade County still owns Vizcaya, but we're operated as a nonprofit.
Okay. And well, that's quite an expansive landscape and footprint for the entire. Now, it was years ago, we used to have the original Museum of Science directly across the street from you, and that has since closed, and now it's being brought back to its original state, which was a farmland.
Yeah, where I am sitting right now is Vizcaya Village, and this is directly across the street from what most visitors are used to going to, which is the main estate. It was all one estate. Originally, it was the entire estate was 180 acres. Now it's 50 acres, of which about 24, 25 of them are here at Vizcaya Village. Like behind me, if you can see it, that was the chicken house. This quadrangle that I'm in right now, what we plan to do here is really make this kind of a hub for education for kids, putting in like a working kitchen, to put in some classroom space. And the chicken coop behind me, it will be like open storage for collections, so that we have a lot of things that are in storage that aren't even in the house. So it gives us an opportunity to bring some things back out for visitors to see. It's a few years down the road before the section will be open, but that's what our plans are. And where the old science museum is, and I used to work there. I worked there 25 years ago. That's a non-historic building. So our plan is to take that building down and to replant the natural habitat along the Bay Heights side of it, and to put in a walking path. We have one of the few remaining rockland hammocks in Miami are here at Vizcaya. So that's our plan, is to replant rockland hammocks over on the far side of the property.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Charlotte. You've been a wealth of information. I've got a better understanding of what Vizcaya has to offer for all of our traveling public. If you haven't been to Vizcaya Museum and Gardens, it's definitely a must. Currently, they're limited in the number of people that can visit, but that will soon change, very soon, hopefully. And thank you very much, Charlotte. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho, and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us.